And welcome to the Texas Talks podcast. I am your host, Brad Swale. Today is the third in the Future of Texas podcast series in partnership with Texas 2036. My guests are Roy Spence, co-founder and longtime chairman of Austin advertising giant GSD&M, and famous for convincing a lot of big brands that having a soul is actually good for business. I also welcome Renzo Soto, Deputy Director of Education for Texas 2036. Today, we will be discussing the future of work in Texas, skills, mobility, and opportunity. Thank you both for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, appreciate it. So, Roy Spence, you're the founder of not only or co-founder of GSD&M, but also the founder of the Make It movement and the Purpose Institute. I want to start off by asking sort of how do these organizations fit into this broader conversation of the future of work in Texas?
Well, great to be here with everyone. Thank you for the question. First of all, we had no idea what we were doing, so that's a good thing. I went to the University of Texas, but didn't go to class.
Yeah, me too.
Okay, good. And I met my partners 55 years ago, and we started a little organization on UT campus doing multimedia shows. Now, y'all don't know what that is, but anyway, multimedia shows, Age of Marshall McLuhan, where it was the medium was the message. Net, my partners and I, by the way, stayed together for 50 years.
That's great.
People talk about wanting to be a partner. They just don't talk about the partnership.
Yeah.
We need to build the ship of state again, by the way, in America. But end game is, and we learned a lot together with marketing, whether it was Southwest Airlines when we first started. Sam Walton called me Collect. So we represented them for 17 years. And we've done the United States Air Force for 26 years. And we learned that marketing could be a force for good. And I mean that.
Yeah.
We basically had core values we still do on the floor of our office. And core values represent what you stand for. And if you break them, you have to fess up. So we believed that marketing could be a force for good. And so we did a lot quickly. When Katrina hit, I got Papa Bush, which I call him, and I didn't ever know him. And I got Bill Clinton together, and they hadn't talked in 5 years. And they went to Little Rock and cut PSAs. We did it for free. And I got a note from Barbara Bush about 2 weeks later that was the moment that her husband became the dad Bill Clinton ever had.
Wow. Yeah.
And then I got President Bush and Bill Clinton when Haiti happened. And we built bridges, and they became best friends.
Yeah.
And then the final thing, about 6 years ago, I'm driving back from Yellowstone with my wife on our anniversary, and I get home and I get a call. Roy, this is Bill. I know Bill.
That's a great Bill Clinton.
I've been with him and he said, all the former presidents want to get together and help the folks down at Harvey in Houston, and you're the only guy we all trust. I went, okay. We have to do it tomorrow. Oh, okay. And we're in 5 different locations.
Right.
Oh, and we got to do it in the morning because we get tired in the afternoon. Anyway, we did it. We got film crews together. I'm saying all of this because in America today, we need marketing as a force for good.
Yeah, sure.
And that's when I started the Purpose Institute and why I started the Make It movement.
Yeah. So, Renzo, Texas is adding jobs faster than almost anywhere else. The real question is whether our people are actually ready for them. So for you, why does this topic matter for the Texas 2036 bicentennial?
Yeah, absolutely. And likewise, thank you for having us
of course.
On this. I think Texas 2036 as an organization is rooted in some core values ourselves.
Yep, yes you are.
And in particular, we want to make sure that Texas is the best place to live, work, and raise a family. And obviously part of that is work. And we're looking forward not just to the folks who are in the workforce now, but the folks who are going to be in the workforce by our bicentennial and there's a lot of economic development, a lot of economic growth here in the state. And we want to make sure that that translates into something material, something real for Texans and their families. And in order for them to thrive, they need to be able to make a good living. They need to be happy with the work that they are doing. And I think we've got a great opportunity to do that here in the state. And in order for us to do that, however, we need to make sure that our systems are in place to support every Texas student, every Texas family, every Texas worker who's currently in the workforce right now who might need, reskilling and upskilling. And that's a gargantuan, task.
Yeah.
We are talking just from K-12 alone, we're talking about 5.5 million kids in Texas schools. But from a workforce perspective, we're really optimistic about the fact that we are reorienting the student experience around making sure that they are aware of the career opportunities that are available for them. And we're putting our money where our mouths are. We got about 1.7 million of those 5.5 million students in high school. And, we kind of orient ourselves around this, statistical trend that we've been seeing over the past several years. And we call it 90, 60, 30. I think we're doing really well in high school. That's the 90%. Out of high school seniors here in the state of Texas, about 90% of them go on to graduate. That's great.
Yep.
From there, 60% go on to enroll in college. And then from there, 30%, I think 6 years after high school graduation, actually own a post-secondary credential.
Yeah.
And it's tougher. It's tougher these days in order to get a good paying job without that experience, without that knowledge, without those skills. But I think some folks see that as an issue, and it's certainly an issue that we need to address, but we see it as opportunity. We know where we're doing really well for our students. We know we're doing well for them in high school. So why not drive a lot of that work around a lot of that systems orientation around what we're already good at? And that is one thing that Texas 2036 that I personally am really optimistic about is the fact that our state leaders, our legislature, our schools, our colleges, our higher ed institutions, they're all orienting around, how can we drive success earlier and earlier on into students' lives? And frankly, I think that we're doing it at a scale that nowhere else in the country is doing. So really proud to be a part of that.
Yeah, so 60% or more of jobs now require post-secondary training or credentials. Texas, as you said, that 90, 60, 30 post-secondary enrollment growth is extremely high in Texas. It's higher than a lot of other states, and we also have a much higher job growth projection than other states, or than the national average. I think it's almost 15% in Texas versus 3% in the rest of the United States. So there's a lot there that, we have to be prepared for. And of course, AI is reshaping how work is done. It's not, a lot of people think that it's destroying it, and there's sort of both camps, and I could see it. I don't know where I fall. I mean, I don't know that AI is ever going to take, I guess we could have a hologram or something like that, an AI representation of me doing this, but hopefully that never happens. So, Renzo, walk us through that enrollment story. Sort of why is Texas bucking that national trend on enrollment for, secondary, post-secondary, all the credentials and everything? Yeah,
so I think for one, it's leaning on that story that I mentioned in terms of we're driving a lot of this earlier and earlier on.
Yeah.
We've oriented our systems around providing that college experience to high schoolers and even to some middle schoolers this day. And so obviously that counts in terms of enrollment. And by making it more engaging for them, I mean, we're talking obviously like college level courses as some of these high school students get older, but some of that is just career exploration earlier on. Think career and technical education. The other week, actually, I took a trip to visit this organization called the Rural School Innovation Zone. They operate in South Texas. They bring 5 rural school districts together and provide them with CTE courses that otherwise they, as a single district, may not be able to afford. But between those 5 districts, they kind of ship their students off to like the one school district that has the really big welding station. Some of those students were waking up at like 5:30 a.m. just to go over there, but that's because they really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
And in particular, I talked to this one young man. And I say young man because he was like a foot taller than me. I'm not very tall. You can't really see that right now. But anyway, I talked to this one young man. He's in welding. He's a senior. He's about to graduate with his welding license, which is, I think, fantastic. But on top of that, he also told me about how he and a cohort of his friends spent summer going to Del Mar College. They're taking dual credit courses. And, that opportunity was provided to them as part of this broader welding pathway. And I thought, okay, really cool, that you're earning this welding license. You can go on to work, right after high school graduation. And then he told us, that's not actually what I'm looking to do. Actually, I want to be in animal science. He wants to pursue a 4-year degree. And I was like, so why are you in welding? Well, this young man has the foresight to say, well, I want to be a veterinarian, and it's going to be really expensive for me to build my horse pens. So I'm just learning those skills now so that I've got that. I can build that myself once I've got my veterinary license. And on top of that, I'm taking dual credit because it's part of my pathway, and that's going to make my time over in university cheaper, a lot more efficient, a lot easier. And he's exposing himself to just this level of rigor.
Yeah.
And, that just amazed me, this like 17-year-old kid having all of this foresight. So yeah, I think because we're providing those opportunities, because we're creating those partnerships, as you said, Roy, between our school districts, between our community colleges, and between our four-year universities, our workforce boards, our local employers, this is a holistic, all hands on deck effort. And the state is recognizing that and building that into our systems, recognizing them, providing them with funds in order to keep that going. So I think that's a really important thing that we're doing here at Texas. And again, I'll call out that we're doing it at scale. We're doing it for so many students.
Yeah, I did not have that foresight when I was 17, just to be clear.
I
don't know what I was doing at 17. I don't know now, and I don't know then. So, so Roy, how do we make sure that this growth actually lifts people into good jobs? From everything you've seen with your work with brands and with people, what does this momentum actually feel like on the ground?
Yeah, it's a great question. By the way, what y'all are doing is amazing. Because if you don't have ground support, air support doesn't work. And by the way, if you don't have air support, long-term ground support doesn't work. That's why you combine the two. And I mean that from a marketing perspective. Real quickly, where we are in Texas, and I grew up in a big city called Brownwood, Texas.
You're a Brownwood boy.
Heck yeah, I still am. And by the way, don't forget where you came from, no matter if it's good or bad. And I never have. And actually did a marketing campaign called Feels Like Home, and it still does. But quickly, grew up in Brownwood. My mom was a civics teacher, and I won't go through everything, but she was amazing. And my dad was a roofer. And everything. I learned a lot about everything. And I turned in a paper in the 7th grade. I don't know if y'all still remember what cursive is.
I recall that, yes.
Okay, yeah.
My mom was really hard on me, but sure it looked good,
So, in a quick story, I turned it in and I got it back, and it was a big C-. I had 8 misspelled words. I still have it. 7th grade. My mom didn't say anything. I went out and played football and whatever. Next grade, same thing happened. We were doing a paper on Emerson, and I told my mom I can't do it. She said, do the best you can. I turned it in. I didn't have 8 misspelled words. At 11, the whole paper was red. And at the top was a tiny A-. I'll go home. I don't get it. And she said, you can't spell. But I talked to your teacher, Mrs. Levacy. I remember her name now because she changed my life. She thinks you can write. My mom put her arm around me and said, I don't want you to spend another second of your life trying to be average at what you're bad at. I want you to spend the rest of your life trying to be great at what you're good at.
Yeah.
And then she said, you can hire a speller. He'll be a good partner. But her point was where I think Texas education is moving faster than any state in the union is that we're starting to realize maybe what Aristotle said 3,000 years ago, where your talents, not your mom, not your dad's, where your talents and the needs of the world intersect, therein lies your purpose.
Yeah.
And so what we are trying to do in partnership with other folks like these folks is that Apollo 13, the line, Houston, we have a problem. Well, I wrote the line after I saw it, America, we got a problem. We have a marketing problem. If you do all this stuff and don't let kids and parents know about it, like when we did Don't Mess with Texas.
Yeah.
They did Don't Pollute, but we did Don't You Mess with Texas. And we had no idea what we were doing, but here's the point. We changed perception, and then you change behavior. If you don't change awareness and perception, you're not going to change behavior. Our efforts along with y'all's, we're in the schools and we're doing marketing. Y'all know what a TV is? TV? Okay.
A big one.
I've seen one.
Yeah,
once or
yeah,
twice.
okay.
Yeah. They're the ones you go up and you turn the knob.
Yeah, and you get static and stuff.
Sure.
But anyway, the antenna,
we are marketing Make It in Texas. We're doing, I can't say we're doing a lot of them this year, Make It in whatever.
Yeah.
And we only buy college sports, football. because we reach parents and kids and grandparents and business people and teachers, and then we use social media to hit the kids. And what we find out is, and this is the biggest issue with Texas that we have to really double down on, we can have all the jobs in the world here, which we're getting to be. If we don't have skilled professionals, for the first time, we have massive supply of careers and no demand. Marketing in partnership with grassroots, we're in the business of encouraging and advocating and actually testing and measuring. We want young people to start their career while they're in high school.
Yeah.
Even if it's just start the discovery. We talk about dual credit. 3% of the people in Texas know what that is.
3%?
Maybe 2.5%.
Okay. Give or take.
Yeah. And, okay, I just made that up. Anyway, but here's what I can't make up. Very few people know about it.
Yeah.
And if you don't, and right now, like you're saying, we had this same kid, Dylan. He went to ACC while he was in high school. He became a welder at 19 with a certificate, and now he's going to start his own business. He's making $80,000 a year.
Amazing.
And if we don't let people know, I'm telling you, I'm passionate, and I am on it, that y'all can help. We need, like what we did with Don't Mess with Texas, we need every year a statewide campaign for 12 months about Make It in Texas.
Yeah.
And you know what the parents tell me when I get done?
What's that?
I wish I'd have known.
Yeah.
Because AI is going to take away a lot of jobs, but it's going to be the toolkit of the builders, the plumbers, the manufacturers. It's going to be their toolkit. And when young people realize I can find my purpose and I can start in high school, and when I graduate, not just with a diploma, but a certificate, when I'm 20 years old, I'm making $80,000, $90,000. And it's not just the money, they found their purpose.
Yeah.
Let's let Texas lead the way.
Yeah. And I think in a lot of ways, Texas is leading the way, being a high growth state,
Yes.
growing population, growing economy, and a strong economy at that. You know, I do wonder sort of, you know, I have a career and I'm doing well. I'm doing what I love. I really enjoy doing this. And I want that for a lot of people. I want that for as many people as possible. And it sounds like what you're saying, Roy, is that a lot of this is maybe a marketing problem.
Yep.
And not knowing, you know, or people not knowing that the opportunities are there.
Right there.
Or even the, you know, what the opportunities are, how to discover them, how to find that purpose and do that.
Exactly.
But work in a growing state like this, you know, I wonder what that's like for young people, right? Like, what does that mean for young people? There's so much opportunity. It's almost maybe you get choice paralysis, where there's just so much. Well, what do I do, right? And then finding that purpose is sort of what you're talking about, helping people discover that.
Y'all probably know better. What we've discovered, and we don't know anything, honestly, what we discover in marketing, we do pre and post. We ask the kids and parents, what do you think about the job? And then we show the work to them, and their perception radically changes. Let me tell you what I'm saying. If you don't change their perception, you're not going to get kids to try something. But secondly, you got to make it easy for them to start discovering careers. And what I'm saying is, a lot of time it's branding. Like, you know, we've got the largest AI plant in America being built outside of Abilene, Texas, which is a suburb of Brownwood. Anyway, I'm just saying.
Sure.
I've got a campaign I'm working on called, because so many, I promise you, these young kids in West Texas want to stay there.
Yeah.
But they don't know if they want to do exactly what the traditional job. So I'm doing a campaign, drilling for data.
There you go.
You want to drill? You want to be a driller? You know what? You can drill for data to solve cancer and everything else. So that's what I'm saying. I don't have the answers, but we got to make marketing equal partner, because if you don't, we'll make incremental progress.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we don't have the answers, but we know incremental doesn't work.
Yeah. So let's talk about some of the stress points.
What do you mean? Oh, I'm sorry.
Some of the stress points in Texas where room for improvement over the next 10 years as we reach the bicentennial. 1 in 3 students earn a credential within 6 years. Career awareness coming a little bit too late. I personally experienced that. There's shortages. There's the story of the 17-year-old becoming a welder, but there's shortages that we hear about in electricians, HVAC. Yep. Those hands-on skills. Yep. Renzo, which of these gaps do you think is most crucial for Texas to solve as we lead up to the bicentennial?
So, kind of like how I described, that rural partnership. Mm-hmm. There's a lot that goes into that. Marketing, obviously, is one of them. Making sure that students are engaged is another. And then kind of all obviously behind the scenes of all of this is there the funding available? Do we have jobs at the end of this? Are we putting students into courses where there's not really going to be anyone to hire them?
Yeah.
At the end of the day, do we have a partner, to make that happen? So all of that is part of the implementation puzzle.
Yeah.
To figure out. And I think that in terms of, how can we tackle all of that in one go? It's not just going to be one piece of legislation. It's not going to be one policy. It's not going to be one rule or whatever that comes from a state agency. But I do think it's rooted in data. And obviously, no surprise, Texas 2036, where we do everything where it's backed in data. And we are a data-rich state. Just like how, Roy and his folks collect marketing data, we take a look at what are students doing right now? What courses are they taking? How is it leading them to success? Are they going on to college? Are they completing their degree? Are they then going on to get in a job, earn a good wage, all of that? And so with data, we can diagnose where those stress points are.
Yeah.
And that's how we bring about, true education to workforce alignment. But despite of the fact that we're data rich, that doesn't necessarily mean that we have all of the connectors in that data in place. And that doesn't necessarily mean we have all of the data points in place in order for the state and those systems to make really, really targeted decisions. Think, for example, let's say you're a student who graduated with a pharmacy technician degree or certificate, and you go on to work at your local HEB. Well, if we look at the data right now, what it's going to show is you're a retail worker.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
You're not. You're a,
right.
no knock whatsoever on our retail workers. I mean, like HEB has saved my life so many times.
So when you say retail worker, you're talking, they would be compared to say like someone that, I don't know, selling shoes at Foot Locker?
Yeah,
okay.
They'd be classified in the same industry.
Okay.
Yeah. And that's all we know about them.
Yeah.
And depending on how that data is reported, we could be seeing that they're working, say in San Antonio, Texas, where the HQ, some of the HQs of HEB are.
Yeah.
When really they're out in like Midland or something, or like an HEB out there. And so we're missing those data points in terms of, what actually are the roles that students and others that Texans are ending up in. Where are they working? How many hours are they working? Those kinds of things. And this is, really, really basic information that allows us to calculate things like did the degree or certificate or whatever post-secondary credential that you earned, did it actually translate into a job in the field that you invested in?
Yeah.
Or are you looking elsewhere? Are you coming home to your home region, to speak to those West Texans? Like, are they coming home to jobs based on the things that whatever it is that they studied in a university if they had to leave home to do that? We don't have that information right now.
Yeah.
And so enriching that data will allow us to have a more targeted approach and really see like what are we investing in that is resulting in good outcomes for students versus, what might need some reorienting. And then another piece of this, I mentioned some connectors that are missing. And so right now, we, like I said, we know whether they're employed and how much they're making, very, very general points. But typically the way that we see that data come out of the state, we kind of have like a 6-year outlook. So we see like 6 years after high school graduation, how much they're earning, what they've earned, so on and so forth. Now that doesn't mean that we don't know, what they're doing a year out from high school graduation. We know that information. It's just that it's not readily and easily connected between one another. And so say you're a school district or an employer who's looking to set up a partnership with that school district about some kind of CTE course that you want to fund so that you can create a local workforce pipeline. And you go to your local workforce board and say, how many students are actually like earning that type of credential? Where are they going on to work? Are they leaving, home to go take those courses, or are they leaving home to go find those jobs, or are they coming back here to do that? They can't tell you that for the class of 2024 or the class of 2025 until 6 years later.
Yeah.
But we could.
Sure.
And it's just, kind of work on the back end on the state side to make sure that those data points are connected and then disseminated to the folks who need it, so that it can then become a powerful economic development tool. So we can tell those stories
Yeah.
At a local level.
Yeah. So, I'd be remiss if I didn't ask about the fact that technology and AI are moving at a faster clip than, say, education
Right.
and even industry, really. AI, there's lots of stories that you see about AI totally just disrupting, say, software as sales, like that. Just whole industries are just being disrupted by that. Can you go a little bit more deeper on that aspect of this and sort of what we can do to make sure that we're keeping up with that when it comes to, getting the next generation, or even current generation, current workers, people ready for that momentum, keeping them on that wave?
Yeah, absolutely. And really quickly before I get into that, I just want to underscore how important that is too, because Roy said something earlier in terms of, parents kind of coming back and saying, I wish I would have known. So we're not really selling these things, these opportunities, these disruptions. We're not informing parents. We're not informing students of them. And the fact of the matter is, from industry's side, because those jobs are being created, because there's the demand for it, because they're paying for it, quite frankly, the reality of it is, if it's not Texans filling those jobs, it's going to be other folks.
Yep.
Yeah.
And when we take a look at post-secondary attainment here in the state of Texas and the folks who actually have a post-secondary credential, a lot of the times that number is being bolstered up by migrants. And it's great that folks are moving into the state of Texas to become part of our community, to learn our culture and all of that, and make sure that these industries and this growth continue to happen. But we need to be taking care of Texans as well. And so AI is just another, one of those things that we need to create systems that are agile and flexible and responsive to these types of disruptions. Now, specifically on that and how we can address those types of issues, it comes back to, we need data quicker, we need it faster, and we need it to be richer in order for us to make, a real decision on it. Because, if you're taking a look at all of these new jobs that are coming out of AI, I think the reality of it is that the training for it is really happening within the company, right? Because they're the ones thinking about, how can we change some of the things that we are doing internally to be more inclusive and more efficient through the use of these technologies. In a lot of cases, that's proprietary.
Yeah.
And so, they're getting that, they're putting that training out specifically only for their employees. So how do we prepare our students for something that, at least in this point of time, is really, kind of like a player by player, business by business approach. And it's by ingraining into them the basic skills, the basic knowledge, the basic understanding that there are some common things that really lean into that. Things like AI literacy, you know? Like, what does it mean to responsibly use AI? Should I be putting my personal information on something that trains itself off of like millions and millions or billions of data points? Maybe not.
Yeah.
No. No, I was coughing. Sorry. Don't do it.
And so, it's those kinds of basic things in terms of teaching students and teachers on how to be responsible users of this technology. And then you kind of build on the skills from there. What's a good prompt? Maybe don't just ask it, maybe don't treat it just like as a search engine, but give it like a personality or a role that it needs to fill, so that it's actually providing you with a more custom answer that is better for you. And then also understand too, right? Like, I think at the core of this too, especially for our students, is it's really important that we don't forget that we need to teach them basic knowledge and skills, math, reading. They need to be able to do all of those core skills so that they can check the AI's work and make sure that it works for them, as opposed to kind of, replacing them. And sometimes, hallucinating and not really giving them the right answer. And so it's this like all hands on deck approach in terms of, like I said, having the faster data so that we, as the, from a policymaking perspective, can be responsive to this really, really fast changing environment. And then also sticking to the roots of what we know and what is really powering the human innovation side of these technologies, which is, we can do math, we can read, we're creative, and we can make sure that we are applying these tools in the ways that we want it to be doing, as opposed to it kind of dictating, where the tides may be shifting.
Sure. So, Roy, with the shortage of these skilled trades, the nurses, the HVACs, the electricians, how do we make kids more excited about those things? And I don't know. When I was in high school, I don't know that I would have been excited about HVAC, right? Maybe I would. I don't know. But thinking back, maybe I wouldn't. But it seems like Renzo, you were talking about the example of the 17-year-old being excited about that welding, even though it's not something that he's going to be doing necessarily as a career. But how do we make that more exciting for people entering the workforce?
Great point. And mainly, I think that, and we don't have all the answers here with me and my Make It movement, but what we have found out, when you let young people know peer to peer, not adult to kid, telling the story, where the welder is telling the story to this kid and said, I was where you were 2 years ago. Let me tell you why I'm a welder. It's not just to make the money, but I've got a purpose in life. And they mean it. Once we go back to this concept, when we show electricians to these young people, they go, yeah, I'll make $100,000 a year. But you know what else? Every time I leave that house, somebody's family's safer.
Yeah.
And kids do just what I just did. It's not just the job. These are not jobs anymore. This work to do for America and work to do for families, reposition it. And so, you want to talk about a job? No. You want to talk about it? You want to talk about how to make a lot of money making a difference? And they go, yeah. So again, we don't have the answers to it, but the bottom line is the world changes. And by the way, these young kids, they get AI, by the way.
Yeah.
And when they start looking at, I'm just going to make it up. I thought I wanted to be a lawyer. I'm making it up.
Sure.
But they might not have as good a job as me being a builder. And I'm going to use AI to build We've got to tap into this idea that America was built by builders. And we got to respect the dignity of all work. And we've got to not champion one way or another way, but these young people are young people too. They want to have a purpose. That's why we're doing this whole idea. Have you ever heard of Pew Research?
Yeah.
Yeah. They're better than me because I exaggerate. You know what I'm saying? And they can't. What are y'all laughing at?
Well, you're better. You're better at marketing.
No, but I started the Make It movement 5 years ago because of this. And Pew Research did a research project 2 years ago, and they found that 98% of all parents agree on one thing.
What's that?
98%.
That's basically all of them.
They agreed that I was awesome.
Oh,
so that's good.
The other 2% are probably crazy.
They didn't know. No, they want 90. Listen to me. We can bring America together on purpose, not politics.
Yeah.
98% of all parents want their kids to grow up, become financially independent, doing what they enjoy soon after high school. All of a sudden, this movement does not mean nothing. It's a movement where we start mobilizing parents and teach. And by the way, teachers have kids too.
Yeah.
And they want so the idea is, let's discover what you were born to do, not supposed to do.
Yeah.
And then let you become great at that. Again, that's the big, hairy idea, audacious idea, but this idea that 98% of parents agree on the same thing.
Yeah. That 98%, so 98% of parents agree on that. I'm a parent of three kids. I agree with that wholeheartedly. Does it need to happen right at graduation of high school?
No.
I have some flexibility. Sure.
Soon
after high school. I have some flexibility. If they need to stay at the house a little bit, that's okay.
Oh yeah.
But this that seems logical. It seems like a no-brainer. I maybe would have guessed that. Maybe not have guessed as high as 98%. But that's a. How do we get the kids to do that if we don't fix this timing of career awareness?
Right.
Whether it doesn't have to be these technical hands-on skills. It could be lawyer. It could be data scientist. Whatever.
Yep.
If it's someone that's going into law school because they think they're going to make a lot of money, and they probably will. Maybe they were actually meant to be that data scientist or that electrician or something like that. If we don't address the idea of career awareness, what happens then?
It's basically, I don't know the answer to that. Here's what I've learned. If you don't consistently, not just sometimes, the United States Air Force, Army, they market.
Yeah.
They know they have to go recruit these kids. And because right now, and they're doing a pretty good job. So I think the point is, let's change the way we communicate. And that is, young man or young woman, you can become great at what you're good at, no matter what that's why we're doing this thing about having young people sign a declaration of financial independence. And both parents and kids are talking about that. Then the parent and the kid doesn't talk about being a welder or a lawyer. They talk about the ultimate goal.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, if parents and kids are talking the same language, depending on how foul the language, anyway, but where parents and kids sit down and they talk about, I want you to become financially independent, and they go, I do too.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, young man or woman, we don't care how you do that. You want to be a lawyer or a doctor or a welder? You see, the change of dialogue is they agree on the higher calling,
the
higher purpose, and we're experimenting with that right now.
Yeah, start at the end and work backwards.
Yeah,
yeah, absolutely.
And Brad, if I could jump in really
Please
quickly
do.
here, I think too, it really does come back into giving them those options, making sure that those options are something that they're aware that they can do, and it can be as young as middle school, really. And
right.
we're not having we're not trying to shoehorn or box these kids into like a single thing and say you're gonna be this because so on and so forth, because this is how you're gonna make a living and you're gonna earn all of this money, and we as a school get like accountability points and state funding because we did all of these things, checking in the box in terms of what the system rewards. I think really at the core of it, there's an element of play, right? Like kids are kids. Some of them are more mature than others and they know what they want to do. But at the end of the day, I think, from those kids who are more exploring versus those kids who kind of have an idea of what they want to know, I think at the core of it, the thing that they have in common is they enjoy. They're looking for something that they can do that they enjoy.
Yes.
And I think that we have opportunities to expand on that in schools, structurally speaking. Like I said, we are investing more in things like CTE. And CTE can mean so many, different things. It's not just like the hard, hard skills, HVAC classes or whatever, like those kinds of things where like a ton of equipment is involved and you need to know like all of the safety, although some kids obviously enjoy that, but it's kind of like some of the softer things. I talked about that 17-year-old young man. I also met some young women over there who are in a grow your own education program. There was a freshman, there was a sophomore, and there was a senior, and they are teaching elementary school kids, like taking the lesson plan from the teachers with the with supervision of the teacher and their program coordinator and whatnot, and they're assigned like, look at what we're doing for this week, look at the lesson plan, come up with activities that the kids can do. And obviously, they're teaching elementary school students, and so there's a nature of play and enjoyment there, and they love it.
Yeah,
like they're going to be on a panel in South by Southwest in a couple of weeks to talk about the things that they are doing. And how they're going to be like ready to be a teacher in 4 or 5 years. It's amazing stuff. And so, I'll tell another story, and this one's a little bit, this one's personal. This is kind of like my middle school experience. I thought I wanted to be in the medical field.
Sure.
All of, my grandfather was a doctor. My parents are both nurses. A ton of people on my mom's side of the family are all in the healthcare field, and so I thought, okay, that makes sense.
It's in your blood.
It's in my blood. I might as well look into it. And we had some opportunities. I grew up in Harlingen, Texas, and so there's a lot of schools out there that kind of focus on that. There's some medical facilities. There's a medical library, all of that, and they took us out as students to visit all of that. And I thought it was extremely fun. We got to dress up in like the sanitation kind of like the gowns, you know, so that we could go into some of the more like sanitized areas of the hospital. I thought that was like so cool growing up. Then I went into high school and I was like, okay, well, I enjoyed that. I thought that was really neat. So I'm going to take some dual credit courses, take some college prep course, like college level courses, medical terminology, for example, to, start earning some credits on this. And I didn't like it.
Yeah.
And I also realized I'm not a fan of like blood,
Sure.
people's blood. And so I thought, okay, well, I'm glad that I had that opportunity to do that and, learn for myself. This is not what I wanted to do. And I learned it pretty early on. I think I realized it by the end of my freshman year, this is not for me. And so from there, I thought I also became part of the debate club and I loved it. And I thought, wow, policy is really cool. And here I am all of these years later doing policy. Now, we didn't have, say, like a law, and policy cluster
Sure.
Available. And so I made the decision myself that, okay, I'm instead of, maybe doing more career-focused work, I'm just going to go all in because I know that a college degree is needed to really get into this. And so I'll just take a bunch of dual credit courses so that I can, be prepared for college and, make it easier on myself and make it maybe a little bit
Great
cheaper.
story.
Yeah.
And so I think, giving students like I said, as early as middle school, just that opportunity to explore and
Yes.
make it fun for them. That's how you get them engaged. And that's also how you give them more time to realize, maybe this is not for me. I'll look into something else.
Yeah. So are we doing that in Texas schools right now?
I think
with
we are.
the CTE courses?
I think so. Like I said, that rural school innovation zone last session, they had institutionalized that type of partnership through the RPEP program. I can't remember off the top of my head what that acronym means, but
RPEP?
It's RPEP.
Okay.
Yep. And so it gives state funding over to coordinating entities and school districts who want to organize rural districts who don't have that economy of scale so that they can, share those resources. And so expanding on those opportunities is something that we're doing through our funding formulas. And I think that Texas can do even more. That's something that we're looking at over at Texas 2036 is really, really diving in on the CTE funding formulas, how schools are using that, how are they making these opportunities available for kids? Where can we find efficiencies so that we can continue to invest on that and, give more opportunities to more kids throughout the state?
Yeah, so I want to talk about sort of the signals that y'all are seeing and watching Texas 2036 and you with your organizations, Roy. We have legislation, it seems like every session, improving, say, community college programs so that, cheaper education, more accessible for a lot of these careers that we're short on. The returns on investments that we see with those with that sort of legislation, all the different CTE programs that we've talked about. I think there's more than 500, is my understanding, here in Texas. Which do you think? We'll start with Renzo. Which are you most optimistic about right now at Texas 2036?
I think it's really the alignment work around student outcomes, and that is a whole heck of a lot of work.
Yeah.
We are really, really serious right now as a state, and I don't know if other states are as serious as we are in terms of taking a look at how students are faring after high school, whether that's college or career or a mix of both, and then orienting our systems around making sure that we have this concept of what we call at Texas 2036 of dual readiness. You can be ready for a career straight out of high school, and you can be ready for college straight out of high school at the same time with the pathways that we are setting up. But are all of our systems completely aligned around that? Do we have all of the data that we need to really, really do that in a targeted and efficient manner? We're working on it. And it's something that, like I said, we're taking very seriously and that the state is investing time and effort into. Kind of some highlights of how we've gone about doing that. You mentioned community college finance system reform. Back in 23, we organized, our formulas on funding, on state funding for community colleges around student outcomes, primarily around them earning what this thing called a credential of value, which is essentially, think about an associate degree or a level 1 or a level 2 certificate, but also taking a look at things like occupational skills awards, other types of short-term credentials, kind of breaking up the long journey to a degree into more bite-sized pieces, particularly for, say, adult students who have kids at home or are working 1 or 2 jobs, making that accessible for them and making sure that the progress that they're doing and the success that they're having in earning, those kind of milestones are all rewarded for the community college so that they're incentivized to do that. And obviously, there's a high school component to that because of dual credit,
Right.
because of the associate's degrees and certificate programs and other short-term credential programs that they offer to high school students that they can earn while they're in high school.
Yeah.
And so we've done that from the funding formula side for community colleges. This most recent special session, House Bill 8, was passed on assessment and accountability on the K-12 side. And I think one of the more important things that came out of this bill is this concept of tiering based on actual post-secondary and career value, the pathways. They're called indicators, but basically the pathways, the things that schools are doing to make sure that their students graduate college, career, or military ready.
Yeah.
To get a little bit wonky here right now in terms of the accountability system, measuring schools and districts as A through F. About 40% of that for a high school is CCMRs, college, career, and military readiness.
Yeah.
But it is a very, it's not, static's not the right word, but basically all of the indicators, all of the pathways that are defined in there are all weighted the same.
Yeah.
But some of those pathways are more predictive of actual post-secondary and career success than others. If you earn an associate's degree in high school, you're probably college ready.
Yeah, I would think so.
Yeah, you've gone ahead and done it, right?
You already got that degree.
Yeah. And we recently saw some research from Dr. Jacob Kirksey. He led a team out of Texas Tech University to take a look at each of those indicators and see which ones are more predictive of that success. And he saw, obviously, those students who are earning some type of post-secondary credential, they're earning anywhere between $2,500 all the way up to $8,000 plus more dollars, sometimes even more. The range, really varies. But in general, students who earn those credentials are earning more than their peers who don't earn anything in high school 6 years after graduation. So that's career ready. And then on the college ready side, also found that students who are earning 15 semester credit hours of dual credit, including at least 3 hours of math or English language arts, those core skills that we need to power everything and to make sure the students are ready for any type of job. Those students are 61% more likely to earn a post-secondary credential after graduating high school than a student who doesn't do any dual credit. That is an insanely high number. That is stunning.
Yeah.
And so obviously with the way that we've situated these pathways, you can do both at the same time. And so I think if we invest into that more and really, get that K-12 alignment of CCMR right and in line with what we're, funding out of community colleges, then you got two systems moving in the same direction for the same population of students. And then on top of that, there's a study that the legislature passed last session that's going to be going on this year in terms of four-year institutions and the possibility of outcomes-based funding for them to get another system to be moving in that direction. And then all of this is tracked through that enrichment of data that we talked about earlier and making sure that everyone in these systems are seeing the same things, are measuring the same things so that they're making informed decisions. So it is a comprehensive reform, which is why, again, I'm so optimistic to be doing this here in Texas because other states are talking about it. We're doing it. Yeah.
Yeah. I wonder, just off the top of my head, just thinking about this as you're talking, all of this, dual credit and associate's degree, doing that in high school, earning more money, being more, if that's a measure of success for sure. I wonder if that's not so much about the getting that, the associate's degree or that dual credit, but more just learning about the discipline what it takes to actually be successful. Is maybe part of that equation that's maybe difficult to measure. I can get a welder's degree in high school or a welder's certificate in high school, but if I don't go on to do that, I learn the discipline of what it takes to do it. Yeah, and I can apply that discipline to other areas.
Absolutely. It's those soft skills, right? Yeah. Like you're being exposed to rigor. You're being exposed to adults, right? Yeah. Like as a high school student, and you're being treated the same as adults, and so you kind of learn, this is what it's going to look like for me outside of my structured classes. And I'd be curious to hear like what Roy is hearing on the ground as you're doing these marketing campaigns for these exact things. Like, how are students reacting? How are parents reacting? What has their experience been like?
Well, this is so interesting. And of course, 2036, y'all are on the ground, and it's amazing. And you ask about Texas. When we're at our best at Texas, we do not predict the future, we create it.
Yeah.
Period. And right now, right, wrong, or indifferent, whether you agree or disagree, Texas is leading the nation right now in trying to put on the ground all the things we're working on. Now, having said that, that means I'm going to make another statement, right? Okay. Having said that, if you don't tell people about it, it doesn't matter. We have to change the language. Like we had a spot we just did, a young woman who's 17 says, I'm going to college while I'm in high school for free. I just stop it. And the kids go, what did she just say? And she didn't say dual credit or, associate degree or chat. I'm going to college while I'm in high school for free. So part of the language of leadership we have to look at, what I call, is that we've got to use peer-to-peer language, because this is the state that's got the grassroots working now. We're in the school, and I will tell you something. I'm so proud of Texas, regardless of whether or not you agree with the politics as a Texan. We're doing something.
Yep.
And that's when we're at our best. And right now, this state and this country needs to breed language to make it. And by the way, you know how you get the best language from kids?
How's that?
From them.
Yeah. Listen to what they're saying.
Mm-hmm. I go to college. I didn't take dual credit or fine. And by the way, CTE instructors are my heroes. What does that stand for?
Career, what is it? CTE, career.
Never mind. That's my point. Why don't we, Texas, just rebrand it? I'm a career educator. Excuse me, what? You are? I'll go talk to you. We've got to, what I'm trying to say is that we're at this moment in time in America and this state where we need to reignite the American dream with these kids. And you do it not in our language, but in their language. And then all of a sudden, back to the point, all the folks on the grassroots get to be the heroes. We put CT instructors on our television spots. Mm-hmm. You can't, I'm just saying, they go home and go, Dad, I saw you. Yeah, you're pretty good. Anyway, but right now, the reason I'm so proud to be a Texan is we are in the business of creating the future. And we can just reach out and put politics aside, because we're not going to solve it on politics, but we will solve it on purpose. Ooh, wait a minute. That's a good line.
Write that down.
That's a dual line. It's
all recorded, so you guys go back and watch it.
Don't anybody out there steal it. So, but I know I'm kind of rambling, but I'm not. We have to have the wow and the how.
Yeah.
If the wow is there and the how's not, you've overpromised. Mm-hmm. If the how is there and you don't wow people to get engaged, you're cheating yourself out of being successful. In the world of commercial marketing, you are judged on whether or not you sold more Snickers than you did last year.
Yeah.
That's how simple. Now, the complicating of events, in the end, back to this, what is our ultimate goal here? And then measure it. And we're at the brink of this in Texas.
Yeah. So, Roy, I really want to ask, you're, obviously very successful career, very successful life. And you have the Purpose Institute, and talking about financial freedom for young people, yes, and how to make things successful, how to market that. What does success look like for Texas in the next 2, 3, 5, 10 years? What's that picture look like?
I think first of all, the measure of success right now is that in Texas, we do have probably the best grassroots support in the schools now.
Yeah.
It's not just do you spell or do you do trig. You're also trying to get young people and their parents to realize there are many options, and don't talk about alternatives to kids. That means if I don't go to college, the alternative.
Yeah.
You become what you want to become. Go your own way.
Yeah.
Secondly, I think that if the state of Texas also next session adopted, and I'll just make it movement, not I do it, like Don't Mess with Texas, and they make a commitment to do the marketing. And all of a sudden, you've got the grassroots, like when we did Don't Mess with Texas, all the environmental groups, everyone got behind it.
Yeah.
And then you had Don't Mess with Texas, and then we measured literally the reduction of litter. So I think Texas has an opportunity to do both, the wow and the how.
Yeah.
At some point, what you measure is how many Texans are making it in Texas.
Yeah.
Now, can I just repeat what I said? It's not necessarily how they made it, but you measure one of the best solutions to affordable housing is to be able to afford it.
That gets left out of the conversation quite a bit.
And excuse me, yes, sir. Oh, well, what if I make $70,000 to $80,000 a year and my husband makes another 40 and you're making? Yeah, affordability can be handled by being able to afford it.
Yeah.
And I would not be doing this if these careers weren't out there. If Samsung, this would be a lie to the American people, but for the first time since World War II, we have a massive supply of jobs and careers and no demand. Can I repeat that?
Please.
Now, if Herb Kelleher was here, and don't yell at me because I love, he said, Roy, we got too many seats and not enough butts. Well, think about it. That was my goal, to get more people on the plane.
Yeah.
If we make the outcome that simple, how many more people are making it in Texas than they were 5 years ago?
Yeah. The most basic of measures.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And also, back to the point is, this state is number 2 in the, I hate being number 2, but anyway, number 2 in millennials and Gen Z. We're a young state.
Mm-hmm.
Other states are having a real big problem.
Yeah.
So let's take all of this and say, starting in 2026, we are going to be the state that leads the nation in reigniting the American dream for every young person, and we're going to measure that. I'm telling you, it could happen.
Yeah. There's a lot there that I'm gonna have to go back and listen to this and really try to digest that. Especially don't talk about alternatives.
No.
However, what you do is what you do, and be proud of it and do great at it.
Don't talk about trades.
Yeah.
Use the language of leadership. Skilled professionals making great money, making a difference. And so part of this is, I said to interrupt, but that was just part of it. Language.
So Renzo, we heard sort of what success looks like from Roy's perspective, from your perspective, and Texas 2036. What does success look like in Texas? What's that vision for 2, 3, 5, 10 years from now?
Yeah. So obviously, we as an organization work on way more than just K-12, right?
Yeah.
So success for us by our bicentennial and beyond that is making sure that we've got good water supply, we've got good energy supply,
yes.
We've got affordable and accessible health care, we've got a great workforce, and we've got robust, education to workforce pipeline, and so much more. We got good government. I mean, all of those things are things that we're working on as an organization. From my perspective, doing education and workforce policy for the organization, the policy wonk in me who likes figuring out the puzzle of the words that we put into law and all of that. I mean, it is, getting all of those systems aligned and doing the exact same work. And we are funding it as a state with taxpayer dollars in multiple ways so that we are truly, truly incentivizing our community leaders, our systems, and our institutions to be delivering what is needed. And that is a good education for kids. A good education that is going to lead them into something that is purposeful and meaningful to them for the rest of their lives, and that allows them to sustain themselves. Well, actually, not just sustain themselves, but thrives for themselves and for their families. And that's a lot of work to do, but we can do it on the policy side. But that's the policy walk in me. We also, as you can tell, do a lot of implementation work. We want to tell the stories of these students. I'll tell one last one, just because I was, again, so impressed by these kids that I saw out in those rural school districts. One of those young women who's studying to be a teacher. In addition to all of the work that she's doing, she's part of this organization called TAFE. It's like the Association for Educators, and they're competing in a competition, in a national competition, and she won her region and her project was on AI.
Yeah.
And me as someone who works on that, kind of the intersection of that policy area with education and technology, I'm like, okay, like, what did you do on that? And she and her partner had created this survey that they sent out to all of the teachers in all 5 of the districts, and kind of just surveyed them on, what do you think who do you think should be using AI from, is this appropriate perspective? Is it students? Is it teachers? Is it neither? Is it both? And I just thought, wow, these are questions that we are trying to ask, and, that we are trying to solve for, and that we're trying to get the answers to at a statewide level. And this young woman just did it herself for 5 whole school districts in the state. She used a Google form. Yeah. I mean, that's amazing, right? And so I think success too, in 2, 3, 5, 10 years from now is more stories like that young woman who's found joy in the things that she is doing at an early stage, as part of her school life. She hangs out with her friends, and they're all friends throughout those school districts. And that's amazing to me, right? That not only are they on a good career trajectory, but I would think, based on, what I heard from her in the limited time that I met her, that she's got a great social life. She's got all of these friends. And then, they were talking about how they're going to be friends for life. And that's just so meaningful to create community, to meet people from outside of your community, find those commonalities, the kinds of things that you all are striving for. And it just goes back to what Roy was saying, providing these opportunities to these students gives them purpose. It is not about the paycheck, I think, at the end of the day. Yep. They talk about it. It's going to be really nice for them.
But what we found is that paycheck is the byproduct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They don't know how to say that now, but all of a sudden you talk to these electricians, I make a lot of money, but you know what? Every time I leave a home, they're safer. All right. That's what we all have to start understanding, this language of leadership with young people. Purpose rules. They might not even know what it is, but when I talk to these kids, they want to make a difference. And they then want to make a lot of money doing that. You know what? You can.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's not a trade-off.
My father would always give me the advice to do something that don't chase the money, make sure you're happy first.
Yeah.
Basically.
Right.
Yeah.
And then if you do that, you never have a job. You just always have work to do.
Yeah. And the money will come.
That's the key. That's the key.
If you're having fun and doing what you want to be doing, the money will come.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we are such an abundant state in terms of
That's
resources,
exactly
in terms
right.
of people, in terms of diversity, talent, all of it.
Yeah.
And making that work for Texans so that they can benefit from that, I think that's the core of what we work on as an organization, and just making sure that this abundance is felt by every single person who lives here in the state.
Yeah. Well, Roy Spence and Renzo Soto, thank you so much for both being here. Is there any final thoughts you want to conclude on?
No, but we're going to do this. I
mean, we are.
One of the great things about Texans in our heart, when we decide that there is a purpose, we're going to go do it.
Yeah.
And this is why when you look at all the recent votes statewide, and I'm going to mention water again, we have to solve the water. But Texans step up.
Yeah.
And they go, let's go do this.
Yeah, absolutely.
And by the way, when I did tourism from Texas, I said, Texas is like a whole other country.
That's true.
And it is. And by the way, let's go out there and let people know it can be done.
Absolutely.
That's our attitude. It can be done.
Yeah. Renzo?
We talked a lot about the impact that we're having on young kids, and I think that is, as adults, that is definitely our imperative.
Yep.
To step up and make sure that they're set up for success as the next generation. But we didn't spend as much time talking about the current workers, the adults who are maybe struggling, especially in the face of disruption. And I think this dovetails well both for adults and the students here in Texas. Is we have such a unique identity as a state. I've spent some time in other states. I had previous roles where I worked in a regional basis, and I'd travel out there and talk to their policymakers and their folks and all of that. And I don't know how to explain it. Any Texan who's listening to this understands it, but there's just that identity that we have as a Texan, where no matter our differences, our political leanings, our opinions, our walks of life, whatever, we see each other as our neighbors, as our fellow Texans. And I think as long as we have that spirit of taking care of not only ourselves, but of each other, I think that, we can translate all of these great things that we're doing in the policy arena into something material, into our next door our next door neighbors, because that's what it's going to take. We can write all of these words down and call it the law, and we'll follow it. But unless it's adopted wholeheartedly, I think in the local communities and the folks who are living this on a day-to-day basis, and unless we support them from the state level or regional level or whatever it might be as a coordinating entity or whatever role we play, it's not going to be as impactful.
Yeah.
And so really fostering that spirit that we have as fellow Texans, I think breathing that into life through like policy and all of that. That's going to be the work over the next 10 or so years, and so proud to do it.
That's great. Well, thank you again for both of you. I really appreciate it. So as we close today's conversation, Texas' future is bright, and work is being done to make sure those already in the workforce have opportunities as the landscape evolves, and those entering the workforce can accurately see what's needed. This includes career awareness, embracing technology, educating the future on what's needed, and making sure people can accurately see what their purpose is. To learn more about how Texas 2036 is tracking progress and measuring outcomes across the state, visit texas2036.org. Next week, we continue the conversation about the next era of Texas urban growth. Thank you for listening to the Future of Texas series on Texas Talks.